Welcome, everybody, to the 16th episode
16.
of the Cover 2, presented by Tigervision. I'm Patrick Neal with Grace and Man, as always. And to quote the great Jim Mora, we're talking about playoffs this week. Yes, another week of playoffs. It was the divisional round, and boy, did it make up for last week. The not-so-super wildcard weekend, it was a little underwhelming, to be honest with you. But, you know, divisional round more than made up for it.
I think we need to start a petition to change Super Wildcard Weekend to Super Divisional Weekend. Just like every game seemed like it got better. Like storylines, stakes, the drama, and you had Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady go down in the same weekend, so a lot of people were happy. The Bills and the Chiefs turned into a game of Madden. Joe Burrow's continuing to be a meme. It was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Dude, it was so much fun to watch. Like, I can't remember having more fun watching football on a weekend than I did this past weekend.
Especially, you gotta just sit with your friends. You just gotta just talk about football. Just appreciate the moment. It's so much fun.
And there were so many moments. Now, I guess we'll go through it chronologically. That's probably the best way to do it. But Bengals. We start out with Bengals beating the Titans in 1916. Like you were saying, Joe Burrow, his legacy as the coolest dude in the NFL continues to live on. And the Bengals got some swagger.
Money McPherson is that guy.
Yeah. McPherson, if you did not see, Joe Burrow was asked about him after the end of the game, and he said that he told Brandon Allen, the backup QB for the Bengals, basically was walking around before going to take the game-winning kick and goes, all right, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship. Nails it. The dude's a goat.
They'd be like, I would be like, can you imagine just being like on the bench and you've put like your soul into the game and the kicker's like, I got this, and just like walks in there and nails it. Yeah. That's baby Justin Tucker right there with a little swagger.
Yeah, that was a goated moment. Maybe McPherson isn't the GOAT yet, but maybe he takes over for Justin Tucker.
He's growing on America.
And you know, spending what, a 6th, 7th round draft pick on him, very, very much paid out. Yeah. You know, well, when you have the likes of Roberto Aguayo, I believe, was drafted in the 2nd round, doesn't really pan out. I don't even know if he's still in the league, but you know.
I think he's in the CFL.
Yeah, Money Mac did pay out, and he was a much lower draft pick. But more on the whole summer of the game. The Bengals' offensive line struggled. I think that's a bit of an understatement. I mean,
it was rough to watch.
It was rough to watch. No team has ever given up 9 sacks and won a playoff game until this past weekend.
Joe Burrow, baby.
Joe Burrow has got to be a little bit mad with his offensive line. You got to protect that boy. I mean, that's the only way you're winning the game. He had to rely on checkdowns the entire time. T. Higgins, C.J. Uzomah, Jamar Chase, whose play after the catch ability is absurd. It was put on full display this weekend, and you know, but that offensive line is a serious problem.
Yeah, and usually the Bengals with Jamar Chase, they can do a lot of things with him. They can just get to short game, have him run up the middle of the field, or take it 60 yards down the field and go deep. They just decided to say, hey, we're going to just use your ability, just run this 5-yard hitch. We can't get the ball out quicker, or we can't get the ball. We want to get the ball out sooner, so why not use our best player at that point and get him just 50 yards. And this was a game, we talked about McPherson already, but those field goal kicks were super important because the Bengals had to earn those points because this Titans defense was no joke. And in the end, Tannehill ended up giving them a lot of chances to be able to make this a game that really Tennessee should have had in the bag based on matchups and strength on strength, line of scrimmage. Derrick Henry came back, wasn't really himself. Imagine that, breaking your foot and then coming back.
Had a steel plate in his foot, had like 5 screws or something. He clearly was not healthy. It didn't look like the normal Derrick Henry that we had seen all season. D'Onta Foreman looked really, really good. I don't know why they didn't use him more, because he looked very active, very quick, very strong. A.J. Brown, he was toasting the Bengals secondary all game. Chidobe Awuzie could not keep up with him.
Ooh.
But, you know, you wonder why they didn't. He had a great stat line, but you wonder why they didn't make him, you know, kind of the focal point of the offense. They seem to really be trying to run it through Derrick Henry. But, yeah, it's crazy to me how the Titans had it seemed like they were the much better team in this game, yet they come away feeling disappointed. And Ryan Tannehill is kind of the big reason because of that. You know, throwing a pick on the first play of the game. Like, how are you doing that in a playoff game? You saw that happen, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a Ryan Tannehill garbage show?
Yeah.
And it kind of ended up being that way. 3 picks. Even like they threw a pick right at the end of the game to allow the Bengals to win that game. You know, you kind of feel like you're content going into overtime because I don't know. You're at home, you have the fans behind you, and then you just throw a pick like that. And not only that, it was to Nick Westbrook-Akeen, who that was like his first target of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you like throw a contested ball to A.J. Brown, it gets tipped and like it's on the other side of the field. Fair enough, but running like it was like a 5-yard hitch. They threw a really contested. It was a bad pass, gets tipped, and then the Bengals have to make 2 plays and they kick a field goal to win it. They just made it too easy for Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati is a team that at this point has enough belief in themselves, confidence, that moxie and swagger. They could take anybody. It's just a matter of how long is this going to last until they find their mismatch personnel-wise. I look at it, if they can beat the Chiefs next week, which would be awesome, but going up against the Rams pass rush, which we'll talk about, and then the 49ers pass rush, which we'll talk about, that's a tough ask because those are much better. That's a step up from the Tennessee defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans also have a very, very good defensive line. It's like top 5 in the league.
They're not terrible, but like it takes it to another level. In
yeah. Aaron Donald is a different beast. Is pretty fair to say. But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about this. I don't know if I can. If you were to envision the Bengals winning the Super Bowl, I don't know if I can envision Zach Taylor hoisting that Lombardi trophy. I just don't see it really.
Yeah, it's not out of the 4, they're definitely the shocker. You can see San Francisco going and being like, oh, they're a mismatch, they're this and that. This is a weird Final Four. I mean, I'm happy we got it because it feels like parity, brand new. No Brady, no Rodgers, which for a lot of people is very much a good thing. And then this is the team that I feel like a lot of people, I think we said this last week too. This is the team everybody's going behind. This is the team that if you don't have a stake in this is the team you're for. Yeah,
but more on Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow was getting pressured pretty much every single play, and he continued to go, 5-out sets, not have a tight end or Mixon or somebody blocking for him, and you see that and you're like, what are you doing? I feel like he's still kind of hindering, the highest level the Bengals can really get to. But then again, like the Bengals were never projected to be in this situation, to be in an AFC Championship game. So it has been a very, very good success for them.
Definitely outkicking their cover in terms of what. I think they were projected to have about 6 wins this year.
Yeah, I believe the line was at 5.5, which put them as like a bottom 5 team.
Well, they've certainly outdone that. That was something.
Yeah. But if we want to transition to the second game on Saturday, 49ers somehow get a win against the Packers. And wow, we have a lot to talk about here. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, you can't put up only 10 points if you're the projected MVP favorite and hope to get a win in the divisional round. This 49ers team is way too talented. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL. And, hate on Jimmy G all you want, but he's a winner. He might only pass the ball, 8 times a game.
He wins, though.
But, gets the ball to the playmakers. Kyle Shanahan does a very, very good job of that, and he's now 2-0 against Rodgers in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was really impressive to see that after that first Packers drive that kind of settled in, it looked like it was going to be, Aaron Rodgers drove down the field, they got a touchdown, and the 49ers went 3-and-out, and I was like, ooh, okay. But they settled in. Kyle Shanahan, he's so great at being able to use motion, use misdirection he had Trent Williams lined up as a fullback and was like, all right, you're going to get a head start and go kill like a little linebacker or DB or something like that. And Garoppolo, I think, had 11 complete passes, and the last 2 that he completed were the most important. So in the end, they put the ball in his hands. He had one to Deebo Samuel over the middle, George Kittle, again, over the middle. Get it to his playmakers. I mean,
that's what you got to do.
Whether you throw 40 passes or 11, I mean, you win the game.
Yeah, and, talking about throwing the ball, Aaron Rodgers, he had a combined 21 targets to Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. 6 total to everybody else, which that's the difference between Rodgers and the likes of Mahomes, Brady, even Josh Allen, who had Gabe Davis go off for a playoff game for the ages. But more on that later. Like he only trusts Adams and Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I think it's just more of like Rodgers as a person. Like his trust level, you like really got to earn it. And there was points where Lazard and I think might have been MVS too, like wide open. You're like, oh, why? It was at the end of the game too. It was 10-10 where they put the ball in Rodgers' hands. And you can look at it two ways. You can say that the special teams let Rodgers down and they didn't need to do much to win this game offensively. Or you can say you're the reigning MVP, like you said, and only put up 10 points. And I heard someone argue that the snow was like a factor, but this is a team in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This should be not anything like this shouldn't throw them off.
They pride themselves on their ability to play in the cold.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it. Aaron Rodgers kind of let down Green Bay, especially when their defense was playing so well too. Like Rashawn Gary had a great game. Pretty much the entire Green Bay defense had a great game. The 49ers only scored 13 points, but in order to win a Super Bowl, you have to be able to rely on more than just two guys, because the 49ers are good enough. They're like, okay, if you're going to leave Allen Lazard wide open on this, final drive for a 20 plus reception or 20 plus yard reception, I'm sorry. We're going to triple, quadruple even cover Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, and
he'll still throw it to him.
And he's still going to throw it to him. And it was just very, very unfortunate to see, because I think for a lot of people, the Packers were kind of the team of destiny. They were kind of the favorite. They're kind of the team that everybody was like, okay, Rodgers is finally going to do it. They're gonna get past the NFC Championship, get to the Super Bowl, and win it. But Rodgers is like, I don't have to lose an NFC Championship if I don't get there in the first place. And Super Gremlin and Kodak Black live on, and we'll be hearing it next week against the Rams.
I got to ask you before we head to our next major game with a quarterback that's now in a little bit of a retirement thing. Where does Aaron Rodgers go from here? Because this was like the last dance type vibes that he was throwing around, like, this is my final season with Green Bay. I'm just going to have fun. And now, if he had gone to the Super Bowl and they had like a little bit of like, oh, we can make this work, but this was really a discouraging loss if you're a Packers fan, and for Aaron Rodgers, who spent his first 3 months of the season, like the offseason, not being like the regular season, just on vacation, just chilling, having a good time. I wouldn't be shocked if he retires, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he said, let's just run it back, and he's been able to mend those relationships this year, or he goes and tries to play for a San Francisco or a Denver, tries to really live out these last couple of years of his career and replicate what Brady did.
I mean, I think quickly we should probably touch on the special teams as well.
Yeah.
I'll get back to your question in a second. But Green Bay, this was perhaps the worst special teams performance of the entire season. Mason Crosby got a kick blocked, and then of course the punt that led to the 49ers scoring their touchdown. That was the only way they were able to score a touchdown.
San Fran didn't score a touchdown offensively.
Yeah.
If you had heard that going into the San Francisco wouldn't score a touchdown offensively and they'd still win the game, you'd think crazy.
Yeah, but going back to your question, where does Rodgers go from here? There isn't like really a much better option, I think, a much better built roster to win now than Green Bay.
Right.
So if he's trying to win again, Green Bay is kind of where I think he should go. I think he should just stay there. Maybe get another weapon that he trusts, I guess.
Yeah.
Bring back Jake Kumaro even, who was cut over the offseason, which Aaron Rodgers had complaints about him getting cut. But maybe I really enjoy Jeopardy. Maybe he threatens Ken Jennings, Ken Jennings' spot on the show as the TV host. You don't know.
You don't know. We never know. You never know with him, though.
Yeah, you really don't. But if I were to make an early next season prediction, I think he probably returns to Green Bay. It seems like his relationship with some of the management has gotten a little bit better, but I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
But on to the other NFC divisional game, Rams. Holy, they almost blew a 27-3 lead against the Buccaneers.
Falcons fans were waiting for that. They're like, please blow this game.
Let us not be the only ones.
Yeah, we can't. There was an enormous amount of internet memes. Like, this was a game where, Brady losing in the playoffs is going to generate a lot of conversation. But then the first half, the Rams looked like miles ahead better than Tampa Bay. Brady couldn't get the ball out. He was getting pressure left and right. No time to throw. It just felt off. Then the Rams decided, okay, we'll match that. And then 4 fumbles later, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are back in the game with a shot, and it just didn't go that. It didn't roll that way.
Yeah, the Rams did everything in their power to try and give the Buccaneers this win. You know, Brady, you had the meme coming up of him with his lip bleeding, and everybody's like, "Oh no, it's gonna happen."
Screaming at the refs too.
And then it was like, what, 27? It was like a 3 or 4 score game with like 4 or 5 minutes left, and I'm sitting there like, okay, it's over. You know, I was walking back to my dorm. You know, I was in somebody else's dorm.
Yeah.
I was walking back to my own dorm because I was like, okay, this is probably over. I was gonna go watch it on my own TV. And I get back, Mike Evans has scored a touchdown. I'm like, okay, it's a little bit closer. And then I see Cam Akers fumble. I'm like, holy, they're gonna win this game. But you know, at the very end, Matthew Stafford is like, you know, you're not the only one that can come back and do something special. And interesting play call from the Bucs, in all honesty. Now, Bruce Arians said after the game, the final play that set up the Rams field goal, it was supposed to be an all-out blitz, and apparently some of the defensive players did not get that call.
It looked a little out of sync.
Yeah,
on that last call, especially when they replayed it. It looked like he was going to commit to the blitz, and then saw Cooper Kupp and was like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
Went back.
But then it ended up Cooper Kupp one-on-one with Antoine Winfield Jr., who is not a bad player by any stretch. He is a very, very good second-year player. But you know, it's Cooper Kupp, just won the Triple Crown, you know, for the first time in like ever. And you can't really do that. And Matthew Stafford gets another playoff win.
And what a year for him. You go, you get traded away from Detroit, so you get those allegations out the way, finally free from the curse of Detroit. And in a year, you're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, playing at home. It's not Tom Brady, it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, 49ers have had the Rams' number historically against McVay and Shanahan, but an opportunity like this, Stafford couldn't probably imagine this probably a year ago, going 4-12 consistently with the Lions. It's just, it's very easy to root for him, especially not a bad guy, has paid his dues certainly in the NFL world, and I think after that Cardinals game, it's like, hey, this team could be special. And at the Rams' best this game, they looked like a team that could win the Super Bowl. And at their worst, it was a just cluster and a mess.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just Brady's luck or playoff magic, where he's like, all right, I'm gonna come back. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, he came back, but then he looked a little bit human. You know, of course, or his defense kind of letting him down there at the end.
The game reminded me of 2015, and as a Patriots fan, I'll remember this very clearly. So they went to Denver in 2015 and played an unbelievable Broncos defense, where it was Von Miller in his prime, DeMarcus Ware, Derek Wolfe. Von Miller was there for that game too. But Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr., so they had corners like Jalen Ramsey on the Rams, Eric Weddle out of nowhere. This was a Rams team that complements each other so well. And so going into the playoffs against 49ers, I'm really confident, but at the same time, there's been so much that's happened this weekend. Anything could happen.
I wouldn't be very confident. I mean, they're playing each other for the 3rd time this season. Shanahan, like you said, has gotten the best of McVay pretty much every single time.
I think he's like 6-0 in the last.
I don't think McVay is McVay has never beaten Shanahan. So you know, we'll see. Both teams are kind of rolling.
49ers are wounded warriors, though.
They
got beat up.
They got beat up. Trent Williams, I think, is kind of hurting a little bit. Debo was limping off the field towards the end of the game.
That might just be like the result of just playing in that kind of weather.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably felt like tackling a bunch of bricks.
But you know, they're going to be ready for the game regardless. I have no doubt in my mind that they will be there to play. And Shanahan is, you know, maybe it's like a mental thing with McVay where he just can't get over that hump of beating Shanahan.
Maybe just overthinks it.
Yeah, potentially. But if we want to get to,
we will.
If the last 3 games we just talked about were, you know, like insane, like $100 pieces of like steak, this game was like Salt Bay's gold steak, plating it up for you, feeding it to you, you know, with his like special knife or whatever. This game was absurd. Chiefs 42, Bills 36. Whew. Like I was having like an asthma attack after that game. It was absolutely absurd. I don't know where we start with this game.
This is the next Brady Manning rivalry. Josh Allen.
A lot of people are saying
Patrick Mahomes. This was a game. Like, there's so many angles you could take from this. There's so many different things that you could say. This happened. This happened. I hate that in a way it went to overtime and ended the way it did because it overshadows how great this game was. For the final 2 minutes, we had like 20 points each. So, like, it was 21-26, and then at halftime it was 36, and going into the extra time. But how about Patrick Mahomes doing all the crazy throws, Josh Allen doing all the crazy throws, Gabriel Davis becoming Randy Moss?
He had an absolutely absurd game. He had like eight receptions, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns, which 4 touchdowns is a postseason record for receiving touchdowns. But like you were saying, Mahomes and Allen were hitting every throw imaginable, every single arm angle, over the top sidearm. They both hit like fadeaway touchdown throws, like they're like prime Dirk Nowitzki. It was absolutely absurd. Like we can sit here and just kind of like sit here in awe for like hours, just reminiscing about this.
It's not
game.
like analysis at this point; it's more appreciation.
Yeah.
And this is a game, and these kind of teams, these personnel, this is the game that you hope for, but you never can get because it just seems too good to be true. Mm-hmm. This was that game.
Yeah.
Where you at the end were like, I don't care who wins at this point. I got what I wanted.
Yeah, it was holy moly. And if we're doing a little bit of analysis on the game, Mahomes first half, it was all about him running the ball. I mean, there was one play where he took off. He was moving.
Lamar Jackson type.
Yeah, maybe who's the best running back in the AFC? Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. It's a question to have.
Move over Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. We got them 3 now, moving. But it was all about Mahomes rushing in the first half. Then second half, fourth quarter, everything just broke wide open. Josh Allen on the other side, while kind of what we were talking about earlier, Stephon Diggs he only had 3 catches or so, but had Gabriel Davis had the game of his life. Absolutely torched Mike Hughes at the end of the game.
That was gritty.
It was absolutely absurd. Put him on skates. It was maybe it was cold, so maybe there was a patch of ice on the field or something. But Mike Hughes, he needs some ankle tape after that one.
I mean, that was the play where it was like 4th and 13. It was had to get the throw in, and it was a touchdown. I think it was a 25-yard pass or something like that, where it was like, ooh, I don't know about this. And we need to talk about this, obviously. 13 seconds left, and you just had a feeling. I didn't think it was possible.
Nobody thought it was possible. Like, of course, there's the Cowboys meme where like Dak took longer to, the Cowboys had 14 seconds, and
it's not a good look.
Dak ran down the field and they couldn't get another playoff. Meanwhile, Mahomes and the Chiefs got pretty much all the way down the field, kicked a field goal.
Should have ran a QB draw. I feel like that's the secret.
I guess so, but there is going to be questions about whether or not. The Bills probably should have squibbed it. I think it's pretty fair to say. But the Bills are probably thinking the same thing. Like, it's 13 seconds. Like, he has to get, 40 yards down the field, 50 yards down the field.
I don't think they were like, man, Patrick Mahomes with 13 seconds left driving the length of the field. That's like a very, very small problem. They probably thought, all right, they'll probably get one play in and they'll have to do a Hail Mary to win the game. But it's just unbelievable. I think that a lot of people are going to say Mahomes, this is crazy, but I think it's more to the play calling of Andy Reid, getting his playmakers in space, setting it up to where they can give Tyreek Hill the ball, who's a speed demon, to get him.
Gave Milano the deuces.
Yeah, you see the clip with Travis Kelce. He was basically like diagnosing their defense. He was like, hey, I got this seam wide open. Mahomes, before he snaps the ball, goes, do it. And so Kelce gets the call and is able to get the yardage that he needed. It was and I know that overtime rules, everyone's like, I would have loved a nice LSU A&M kind of game. Mm-hmm. That would have probably like exploded my brain. But it was still great nonetheless.
It was a great game regardless. I mean, there is a lot of controversy now about the overtime rules, but part of it is your defense getting a stop. Now, probably want to see maybe both sides getting the ball and then maybe go to sudden death.
Yeah.
But the Bills have one of, if not the best defense in the league. So them giving up a field goal with 13 seconds left, letting Mahomes drive the entire field pretty much to kick a field goal. Speaking of field goals, Butker
Money.
could have been a lot worse for him. You know, he missed a few field goals, missed an extra point. It could have ended up very, very badly for him if they did not win this game. But regardless, Buffalo,
Clap it up.
yeah, fair enough.
Clap it up.
It was a game for kickers, or a weekend for kickers. But Buffalo not being able to stop Mahomes and the Chiefs from getting a field goal late in the game with 13 seconds left, or stopping them from getting a touchdown on an overtime is, you know, that's part of the game.
Yeah,
like, defense is part of the game.
You gotta get a stop.
But I think if you're gonna change it, I think if you're gonna change the overtime rules, I think you change it to give both QBs an opportunity. Maybe do it like college where it's 2-point or start at the 25-yard line, then move to 2-point conversions. But you know, give both QBs an opportunity to score to make the game.
There has to be a reason why that hasn't happened yet, because I feel like the majority of the NFL fan base wants it. And there's just like maybe they want to be different, or there's some sort of safety thing that's like maybe that's part of their thinking.
Yeah, so they're playing less snaps. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I can't complain about that game. It was fantastic.
It was absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
But there was some breaking news today. We're filming this on a Tuesday, per usual. Sean Payton is leaving the Saints. The Saints ain't got no coach anymore.
The Aints.
The Aints ain't got no coach anymore.
This was
Falcons fans will appreciate that. NFC South fans will appreciate that little jab.
Yeah, and this was very much a shock to me, but I think the more you look at it, they're like, I guess this is not a situation he wanted to come back to.
No.
$71 million under the cap. They'd have to do some major roster work. No more Drew Brees. Jameis Winston, I mean, if I was a coach.
It's the Jameis era.
I would love to be a part of the Jameis era. Eating W's, stealing crab legs. I mean, who wouldn't?
Oh, yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be?
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Who wouldn't want to be a part of, negative $71 million in cap room with only like 41 players signed to the roster?
This feels like a retirement that's going to be like a couple of years. And he's going to be like sick of it, and then he'll come back because he's still
Urban
brilliant.
Meyer.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh. Maybe not. Maybe he'll be a little more successful. But yeah, he had 1 year without Drew Brees. It was like, Taysom's giving me too many headaches. I'm out of here. I'm a bounce. But a very impressive career for Sean Payton. 16 years in New Orleans. Has more wins than the 3 coaches before him combined.
That was the time of the Aints. That was the real time.
Yeah. And, he's one of the top offensive coaches in the history of football. So
yeah, he's certainly leaving a legacy behind. There's going to be some big shoes to fill.
There are going to be some big shoes to fill. Where does he go now? Where do the Saints go now?
Saints need to get somebody that they don't have to be the next Sean Payton, but I think getting somebody like Brian Flores or Mike Zimmer would bring in instant stability. They have a decent little track record. Brian Flores, just a lot of people don't really agree with that firing, and then Mike Zimmer, a lot believe that he's going to be a coach that can stick around and potentially get a couple years in with a solid roster. Mm-hmm. So it's all about how appealing is the job, because there's a lot of question marks. Does the roster kind of fall apart because Sean Payton was the glue that held it together? We'll just have to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, if Mike Zimmer hated Kirk Cousins, how much do you think he'll hate Jameis Winston and his inconsistency?
I think that Jameis Winston is just a great guy all around that he could revive Mike Zimmer's love of football and make him forget the Kirk Cousins era.
Fair enough.
I have that is my faith in Jameis Winston, folks.
Jameis Winston is bringing the Saints to the promised land. You heard it here first. Grayson Mann, quote that. Keep the receipts. We'll revisit it in a year. But yeah, you got to try and bring in a coach who's able to give him some stability and has some idea on how to move around contracts to get him under the cap.
Yeah, they need to get that. Their GM's gonna get like fired or something. Like, how did this happen?
Oh yeah, but they were able to do it last year, moving around money, turning it into bonuses and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't have too much doubt that the Saints will be able to do it again.
Yeah.
But it's an end of an era.
Not ideal.
We have a lot of end of eras,
Yeah.
with Roethlisberger, maybe even Brady. Imagine Roethlisberger is about to announce his retirement on live ESPN, and then all of a sudden,
Like
as soon as he says
the
it,
world falls apart.
well,
Brady
as soon as
retires.
he says it, then Brady's like, all right, I'm retiring too.
Roethlisberger's like, well, I guess I gotta go again.
Yeah, that's what he'd have to do, I think.
Yeah, poor guy. He just wanted to have his year.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. We'll see. But you know what, guys? Before we wrap up, we're gonna go cover a quick college football things. Get back to our roots of what this show is all about.
Yeah, we've been like 1 or 2 weeks without college football now.
Off the path. It feels kind of weird.
Yeah, there is a little bit of college football news. First off, we got to take a moment of silence. Rest in peace to the the U's turnover chain.
All right,
This hurts.
I can't cry. I promised I wouldn't.
But Mario Cristobal's changing the culture there. I
He
guess
is a no BS kind of guy. I feel like that's kind of his. He's just like, this is kind of because there were times where like they'd be down like 42-10 and get like a pick off their like Clemson's backup and be like turnover chain and be like,
you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. There's got to be some sort of unwritten rule where if you're down by more than like 20.
If it's tied or if it's like a big moment, like if it's just a turnover for the backups, no. Let's just leave it at certain things. Another one was Jermaine Burton has become the enemy target of Athens.
Oh yeah.
I don't get this one, and I know that Alabama's like this is like the place to be, but you just beat them, and now you're on their roster, and you're probably gonna go back to the national championship. I just don't get it.
He didn't want to be a part of Saban. He didn't want to play Saban when Saban was on his revenge tour.
I guess.
I don't really get. I mean, I get it at some point because Georgia's returning a lot of their receiving talent. Donnie Mitchell, Dominique Blaylock's coming back after suffering knee injuries the past 2 years. You've got.
I mean, George Pickens will have a more increased role next year if he decides to. I think he's declaring, isn't he?
I'm pretty sure he declared, but you got Ladd McConkey, you got Brock Bowers. So there's a lot of talent returning, and maybe Burton wasn't going to, maybe Kirby Smart told him that he wasn't going to get much playing time or something, or maybe he felt that way. But Jermaine Burton was one of their top receivers this season, so it doesn't make too much sense.
What an awkward, spring ball, conversation started. Like, hey, I was on the team that beat y'all. So,
yeah. He's bringing that championship mentality to Alabama.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, Saban's got to be reminded how to win a championship.
Yeah.
It's only been a year.
Alabama doesn't know how to win a championship.
Yeah.
So
Jermaine Burton's
going to be that leader.
Is Saban's he's basically a genius. He's just like, hey, how can I maximize the amount of rings I can put on my fingers?
Yeah, but Stetson Bennett is also returning to UGA, so that's another
That's a
important
W.
part of information to the Jermaine Burton transfer. But Saban now has the #1 wide receiver transfer, running back transfer in Jahmyr Gibbs, and cornerback transfer in Eli Ricks.
All that to beat Stetson Bennett?
I guess
Such a shame.
you gotta be able to
shame.
beat Stetson somehow. And Saban is loading up and not messing around.
Yeah. He said, all right, just lost to a walk-on QB. Normally I'd be fine if it was Deshaun or Trevor or maybe Justin Fields or something like that, but not this guy. He said this isn't going to cut it.
I ain't losing to a former walk-on. Yeah, it's wow. Saban is clearly not playing around. And also, Mecole Hardman posted Burton on his IG today and was criticizing his move to Alabama. Like, how are you going to do that? Not only did you just beat them in the national championship, but they're big rivals.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you? It's basically going. So you're. How do I fit this analogy in? It's like going to you just broke up with the ex, and then she gets together with your best friend, then she breaks up with your best friend, and you get back together with her. Everyone in that circle's that might have been a little confusing, but that's my attempt.
I kind of lost you there, not gonna lie.
All right, I promise next week I'll have a better one. I promise.
I need to sit through and think about that one for a second.
Basically,
I think
it's just a huge love
slow.
triangle.
Okay.
Think about it like that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Grayson. Hopefully the viewers understood that a little bit better than I did.
Comment down below if you understood what I was saying.
Do that. Yep. And also, one last piece of college football news before we end. Lincoln Riley gets Travis Dye from Oregon, the running back.
He's getting everybody.
He's getting everybody. But what's interesting is a year ago, he blocked Chandler Morris's transfer to TCU because he said that interconference transfers are bad for the sport. And now he's turning back on his word, which he has seemingly done ever since he took this job.
It's interesting. California just changes you.
I guess it does, but you know he's got all this money now and doesn't know what to do with himself. He thinks he's invincible, and you know now he's getting a top transfer, a top player from a rival university. So I don't know what is like. You got to have some sort of stance on. If you're going to have a stance on something like interconference transfers, you got to stick to it.
Well, maybe because he wasn't in the conference at first, he's technically still a newbie to it.
Oh.
Maybe he's like, you know what?
Yeah,
like,
I found a loophole.
Like, you know how they say new year, new me? They're like new conference, new me type thing.
Maybe, but maybe it's because he would have been losing Chandler Morris, and now he's gaining Travis Dye.
He just cares so much about the players that he has.
Lincoln is forming a nice hate group. I gotta think.
There's a lot of people in the country that probably have Lincoln Riley, like they have posted up on like a wall, and they just have dartboards.
Oh yeah. Who's more hated in Oklahoma, him or Kevin Durant?
Ty.
Oh, bold. Ty.
Because Oklahoma football is like the lifeblood of that. And then Oklahoma City, it's been long enough. This one is fresh.
It's been long
a deep
enough.
wound.
Yeah.
Durant switched teams already again, so I mean.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We should do like a beef section of like cover two, like who's made each other mad this week.
I would like that.
I'm down.
We should
Post Super Bowl. Let's do it.
Hopefully. But that will probably wrap it up for this week of the Cover 2. Again, presented by Tigervision. We want to thank Zach, who is absolutely awesome. You know, he's been able to do so much for us. We want to thank him. We want to thank Tigervision. If you are watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, do all that. If you are listening on Spotify, give us a rating, share it with people. You know, get the Cover 2 out. And any last closing thoughts?
As always, thank you guys for watching. Maybe next week I'll be able to form a better analogy that Patrick will understand, so I can get some.
That's not really your fault.
I just need some validation, man.
Well, it's just I work a little slower than everybody else.
Maybe like you'll be in your dorm room, be like, I got it now.
It'll just take me a second. But thank you all for tuning in, and we hope to see you all next week. Have a good one.